Welcome to Bridging Generations in Sales and Outreach. My name is Butch Nicholson, and I'm your host today. This is where old school wisdom meets new school tools, and the sales journey has changed, and we're going to talk about that today. But a couple of things are still true, and they've always been true. Number one, people want to buy from someone they know, like, and trust. And number two, we have to meet buyers where they are, not where we wish they were. So it's very important to understand how different generations prefer to buy. So regardless of your age or their age, you know how to deal with them. And I'm really excited today. I've always wanted a show with a father-son connection with different generations. So I'm glad to have Mike, Winston, and Josh Kintz today. I've known Mike for a long time. I've known Winston briefly, and I've known Josh since yesterday. So let's start with this, and we'll go age before beauty. Winston, I want to get Winston and Josh to share to start with, and then we'll talk to Mike.
Sounds good.
Cool. I'll start. I'm Weston Kintz, the Director of Marketing for Wingman Payments. And my background is, went to some college, was a manager at a movie theater. And, at some point I wanted to try to do something more fulfilling to me. So that's when I came on with my dad last January. And I've been working with him for almost 2 years now.
Thanks, Winston.
Awesome. And Josh Kintz just came on board last week. Essentially, I've been in the insurance industry for the last 10 years, just like Weston, did a little bit of college prior to that, and then was ready for a change to build long-term growth, long-term revenue, and just build something as a family. I think it'd be really cool to see where we are in 5-10 years from now. So that's what brought me on board.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Mike?
Yeah, my story's a little bit longer. I've been around a few more years. I started in about 1995 in banking. I guess my kids got the lack of college because I really didn't go to college. I did some college. I've always been a little bit more of a dreamer and always looking for a better deal and stuff like that. So fortunately, I found an industry, kind of fell into it, in merchant services through banking. And one of the things I always knew that is I wanted to have or build something that was beyond my time and energy to create. And one of the things merchant services, similar to insurance, like Josh was on before, is there's residual income. So since basically 2009, I've been self-employed, working directly with business owners in the community all across the country on different types of industries, whether it's pay at the pump gas stations, restaurants, retail, e-commerce companies, high-risk companies, just about any industry that you probably can think of, I've probably worked in or helped businesses in those communities. In fact, one of our largest customers is a tag and title company that have offices all over the country. And we've been working with them for several years now. So that's kind of how I got into merchant services. And one of the things in the merchant service space, in which I think you probably realize this, is the hardest thing in business is to find people you trust. Fortunately, both my boys and I have always had good relationships. We've always been able to communicate and talk and stuff. So it's a bit unique in our family. But one of the biggest reasons why I brought them on board is they're both very capable of doing what we do, and two, I 100% trust them with my life. So I know they have our back, as you've probably heard. Wingman Payments slogan is "We've got your six," and that's one of the biggest reasons why I brought them on board. If you can't build it with your kids, who can you build it with?
That's great. So, Mike, I met Mike at a chamber meeting several years ago, And if you follow Mike on LinkedIn, you'll see him all the time talking about different events he's been to, what he's done. How did you make the decision, Mike, to start doing those kind of things rather than just kind of the old-fashioned way of cold calling and email and that kind of stuff?
Well, I think in today's market, it's really hard to build a relationship out of a 10-second cold call or phone call or email. And I think everyone's always looking for the path of least resistance. So, some of those things are easy. It's really easy to send 5,000 emails to people. That is very easy to do. And it also destroys your brand, because I can't tell you how many times a day I'm hitting spam, 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 spam. And it's really irritating when people have no knowledge of what you do, who you are, and they're just sending you emails like, hey, I can help your business. So getting involved in the community was a major thing. When we built our first business in 2009, that was a major way we did it, was to get involved in the communities, get involved in chambers, get involved in business associations, Rotary, get involved, because that's how you build know, like, and trust, is to get out there, get to know people on a personal level, what they like. And then most people like to do business with people that they enjoy being around. So, and you have long-term relationships that way.
Well, I really believe that. And I believe one thing to still be true, and that is people care who you are before they care what you do.
Agreed.
Totally.
And that's one of the things that we instill. I think where Wingman Payments is different than most merchant service providers is the level of service and support. The fact that you have a partner in business, not a service provider, that you have somebody that understands the industry far more than you're ever going to understand it. And you could ask questions and we have your back. In fact, we just finished, Josh and I have been working on a project with a bunch of our orthodontic offices that we had them with a vendor that keeps increasing their rates and fees, and they're not letting us manage that relationship. So we're just moving them all off their platform. And in actuality, it's going to benefit our business, but it's going to benefit our orthodontic offices a whole lot more. And the funny thing about it is the orthodontists keep asking us, well, what's the catch? Like, why don't I want to do this? I'm like, there's no reason not to do this. In fact, the person that's losing here is me, because I'm going to make a little bit less in residuals, but I don't like the way they're treating the client. And you've seen this with businesses. I think here's an example of it. Disney, right? They've had a streaming service for 3 years. How many times have they increased their rates already? 3 times. They've increased their streaming platform fees 3 times in 3 years. But have they really provided any additional service? Have they really provided any additional products for that money? No, it's just a money grab. And those are the things that we try to stay away from.
So Winston, since you're head of marketing, let me ask you this. I 100% believe that CEOs need to be visible. Again, it leads to building a brand. It leads to being a thought leader in the industry. And I know that y'all made a decision to do that and move away from some of the standard things we talked about. What went into that decision?
I think just a lot of what we're trying to do is kind of like my dad said, stuff doesn't necessarily have to benefit us, but we do care about our clients. We care about our community. And a lot of what we try to do in terms of marketing, in terms of how we interact with clients, is really just trying to help people. And, you could see it in a bunch of different, I could go on for a bunch of different stories, but, we have some services we offer that a lot of our competition doesn't offer, like a PCI compliance. We manage people's PCI compliance free of charge, and we've helped other people that aren't even our clients deal with it and get them compliant So, in terms of marketing, we just want to show people that we really care, that we're involved in the community. And, we want to make sure that we're helping businesses grow.
Yeah, I had a funny thing happen a couple of Fridays ago. I was invited to an event by a good friend of mine, and I didn't really even know what I was going to, but he was a good friend, so I wanted, I was glad he asked me. And you sat at tables of 4, and my friend and I sat down first, and these 2 other guys came up and sat down, and one of them said, "Butch Nicholson, I know you. I see you on LinkedIn all the time. I watch your show on Fridays." So you never know the impact you can have by being out there.
Mm-hmm.
So Josh, I started in the insurance business almost before your dad was born. But I think insurance is a great training ground for sales. Tell me how that background in insurance and what you're doing now, although you haven't been doing it long, how that's equipped you to do what you're doing now for the family business.
Yeah, great question. I think just the experience of doing health insurance over the last decade, pretty much making this transition to payment processing, I'm trying to find all the parallels in the ways I can to be able to comprehend a new topic and be able to comprehend how I can depict something I really don't understand yet. For example, in the healthcare world, you have the insurance carriers. Well, I'm learning in the payment processing world, that's the same thing as the Fiserv, the back-end processors. And then the point of sale systems are essentially like the different networks that you can go on and have access to different doctors. So I'm trying to, in my brain, find the parallels between the different industries to make it, in my head, understand as quickly as I can. And I think overall, too, just being in insurance, there's a lot of black and white, but there's also a lot of gray in the health insurance world, because everything is based off of opinions of whether it's a doctor, opinions of the insurance company, of what is designated a covered claim. Even though it's in writing, there's always a case by case or circumstance that could change the outcome, right? So it seems, so far it seems like it's going to be just way more black and white, and just also a little less complicated than all the nuances of health insurance, and far less regulated, which is kind of a nice breath of fresh air.
I understand that. Mike, I know you could probably talk about this for an hour, but just quickly, one of the things, the little bit I know, and it really from listening to you talk about the pay systems, I would assume most people are like me. My girlfriend and I go to dinner, the bill's $75. I put a tip on it. I stick my card in. They take the $75 plus the tip, and somebody gets it. And that's all I think about. But there are all kinds of charges, from what I understand.
There can be, and the processors get very creative about those charges. And really, what we focus on, we try to keep it simple for business owners. I find anytime you talk about complex things, if you can break them down really simple, it makes the most sense. So what I would focus most business owners to do, if they're trying to understand their bill and what they're being charged, and really compare apples to apples as far as what the charges are, the easiest way to do this is when you get your merchant statement, you look at the line item that says what your total process volume was, whatever it was. And then you go to the bottom line and you look at what the total charges were for the month. Okay, you take the fees divided by the volume, and that gives you what your total cost of service. If that total cost of service is over 3.5% or 4%, you really should have someone like ourselves look at it and give you some advice, or just kind of go through the statement to identify where there may be some overbilling. because you can't lie on the total cost of service. Your total fees are your total fees. I can do a lot of things in here with authorization fees, transaction fees, interchange, assessments, dues, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still going to come down to the total cost of service. And that's what we focus on lowering for merchants. And that's the easiest way for a business owner that really doesn't want to understand everything that I know. They just want to understand, like, am I getting a good deal? Is this competitive? And I would say if you're over 3.5%, you probably should have it looked at. You probably could do better.
Yeah, I think I would think even most people who have the payment systems probably don't really understand what they're paying for.
No. And people get caught up in the weeds because I'll meet with business owners and they'll be like, my rate's this. And I'm like, but what's your total cost of service? Like,
Oh,
Oops.
We lost Mike. All right, well, let's
the show must go on.
Yeah, the show must go on. So one of the things that we talked about was all right, the show,
I don't know what happened. I didn't hit anything. They gave me the get him off stage. They took me backstage and beat me up.
Well, the show goes on. So one of the things I know is the buyer's journey has changed, and there was a study, and I believe it was by McKinsey. I may not be right about that, but it was one of the big consulting firms, and their study showed that 75% that buyers do 75% of their research before they even want to talk to a salesperson. And back in the day when I started, somebody told me you're really old if you say back in the day. So I try not to say that, but I am real old. But if somebody needed information, they had to contact a salesperson. That was the only way you could get information. And these changed all that. I mean, you can get all the information you need off your phone right now, much less what you can get if you throw in your computer and chat GPT and on and on and on. But I know I would bet that I buy very differently than Josh buys. And I think one of the things that buyers miss or sellers miss is meeting the buyer where they are. If the buyer's a LinkedIn person, you got to meet them on LinkedIn, whether you like LinkedIn or not. If they're a Facebook person, you got to meet them there. If they want to meet face to face, you got to meet them there. So talk about that challenge a little bit and how y'all bridge that age gap.
Who do you want to take that?
Anybody.
Okay. Well, I'll just say from I'm a firm believer you got to meet customers where they want. So some people are researchers and want to know everything, and then you have other people that are just. And I know you've heard this, Butch, where someone cuts you off and says, "What's the bottom line?" They just want you to get like, "What's it going to cost me, and when can I get started?" That's all they really care about. And so you got to really understand the type of person you're talking to, how they communicate, and answer the questions that are important to them. And then, really we're in the business of solving problems and making people's lives easier at the end of the day. So I don't know.
I think a big piece on that too is since people are doing more and more research for people like us who are doing things ethically, it makes it a lot easier for them to understand that we're doing it the right way. Because if someone is, in the merchant service space, I mean, my first week here, I dealt with 5 or 6 different fraud calls in 1 week, so in the merchant service space, fraud is out there and it's rampant. So if people are doing more and more research for people with integrity like us, it gives us a competitive advantage because we can talk about topics and different line items like my dad mentioned earlier, where they might already understand it and it makes sense to them. Like, oh, okay, no one's ever explained it like that before to me. No one's ever showed me my total cost of service because everyone just talks about the rate. But really, you can hide a lot of fees and be real scummy with it if like a lot of people are out there.
And I think on the marketing side of things, kind of what my dad said is you have customers who are just like, I don't care about how it's done. I just want a good rate. You know, they don't want to think about merchant services. We could do that. We have some customers who want to know every little detail, and we could help them with that. And so on a marketing side, that just means I get to try to do a bunch of different posts. I get to talk about both sides of thing of posts that are like, hey, you know, we can help you like just get straight to the point. And then some are more informative and, you know, I'm trying to teach you something. So the fact that you have a wide range of people who, you know, depending on how they want to do things, it allows me to be creative with trying to market to them.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I've seen, you know, several years ago, cold calls and cold emails was the way business was done, and there was a system out there. You knew how many cold calls you had to make to get one person. You knew how many cold emails you had to send. But I know for me, I don't answer the phone unless I know who is calling me. And I think most people are like that to some extent. I know there's some people who have to answer their phones, but I would think the mass majority of people are like me. If they don't know who it is, they're not answering. And also, so let me ask you this, Josh. In the morning, when you open up your computer and you have 50 emails or how many you have, how do you sort them? Or how do you decide which ones you're gonna look at?
Yeah, I mean, really, I'm looking probably the if any are flagged as important, catch my eye first. But really, just like glance the names I recognize. You know, if I was waiting for an email from, you know, Becky, and I see an email from Becky, that's probably going to be the one I open first. Where the emails where I didn't necessarily expect to get an email from said names are going to be one of the last ones I open.
Or if you look at them at all.
Yeah.
So Mike, what is you've been around a little longer than Josh and Winston. What's your experience on how the way you reach prospects has changed?
I've always been a big believer on customer referrals and working through referral partnerships and relationships. So most of my sales career, I've spent most of my time trying to develop partnerships and relationships. I was never one that really loved cold calling too much. I don't think I could take the personal rejection. No, I'm just kidding. So I've always found like we partnered with a company that, you know, does scheduling software for fitness, baseball, batting cages, and they have clients all over the country. And, you know, we were just working with them, helping them navigate the merchant service environment, integrating payments, being able to create cash flow from taking payments on their software. You know, then there's other things. We just work in the community with different organizations and stuff. And, you know, if you're providing a quality product and you're doing things right, you're never short of people referring you business. You know, I mean, an example of that is we were working with a food truck franchise. Just came back from Florida on an installation. Was driving back and we needed another mount for a food truck, and I called my contact Jesse and was ordering the part that I needed, and he's like, hey, when can you get your stuff set up on my food trucks? Unsolicited. Like, he knew what I did because we had talked before, but I've never asked him. And he's like, hey, and I was like, hey, let's just schedule a demo and we can start the process. You know, so I think a lot of it's when you do things the right way and you're providing a quality product with a quality service. You know, business owners talk. You've heard of the saying, birds of a similar feather flock together. So when you work in a certain area and you're helping a business, it's not uncommon you start getting referred by, you know, people they know and stuff in a similar industry. So that's how I've spent most of my sales career, building through relationships, managing partnerships. The customer calls, return their call, answer their questions, take the hard calls. Because what I've learned is a lot of people freak out when there's a problem, but that's just an opportunity to show them that you can take care of them.
Yep.
So if I have a problem and I call it and I take care of it, I resolve it, you've actually haven't lost trust. You've actually built trust. You've actually have a stronger relationship after the problem than you had before the problem. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that.
Yep. I was just thinking, I want to say one thing. There are people that do great making cold calls. There are people that do great with cold emails. I am not one of them. But if you're being successful doing that, don't change. Keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You've got a very special talent. So complete respect for the people that can do that. Winston, you talk about making your digital presence more human, bringing the human element into what you're doing. I've always said that people don't care about the latest, greatest thing you did as much as they care about a story, maybe even where you failed and what you learned from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to go into a rabbit hole on AI. I know that's a whole nother topic. But I do think that AI is being overused in a lot of industries. And one place that I think it is getting overused is in the customer support side of things for a lot of businesses. Whether it's fully ready or not, I don't think it's optimized at every business to be ready. And I think in a space as merchant services, where services, providing a service is the whole point, moving away to, either whether it's cutting costs or just doing things differently, pushing for overseas calls or AI chat, when you have an issue, I did a presentation a week or two ago, and of the 10 biggest issues that people call in when it comes to merchant services, 7 of them are directly related to funding, not getting money. And then of the other 3, 2 of them are technical issues, and they're usually being called because of a funding issue. So when 80 to 90% of your calls are help, I'm not getting my money, or help, I can't take payments, you need to picking up the phone and talking to someone directly is the only way to get that resolved as quick as possible. And with severe problems such as funding issues, you want to be able to talk to someone immediately, not listen to elevator music. Your call is important to us. If it was important, you'd be on the phone with somebody.
Speaking of AI, I usually, when I wake up in the morning, I usually have somewhere between 30 and 40 emails. About 2 weeks ago, I woke up and I had 230 emails from the night before. And I finally figured it out. I had 208 of the same message sent over about a 4-hour period in the middle of the night, which had to be AI generated. It takes a long time to delete that. Well, it takes a long time when you're really angry because you're having to do it, to eliminate 208 emails.
That's for sure. That would be frustrating.
So, how do you, Mike? I know you're very active in the community. I know you do a lot of great things. But how do you you could go to a meeting 24/7, 365, I believe. How do you decide where to focus your attention to particular causes like the chamber?
Yeah, for me, I like to focus more on what a lot of people would call open networking groups, more so than closed ones. More philanthropic, more like Rotary, chambers, business associations, where they don't care if there's 5 bankers in the room and 6 merchant service guys and 3 business attorneys. They're all people that want to help the community. And at the end of the day, you know, I want to know as many of those people as we can. Working on different projects with Rotaries, I mean, just amazing the stuff that they've done. I know that the Rotary of Alpharetta just had the mayor's race in Alpharetta, and they're doing some other projects, and they raise a lot of money that supports a lot of good things in the community. But that's how you get to know business owners. That's how people get to know you. So then when your business owners that you know talk to other people and somebody says, hey, I'm having a problem with this, it's like, hey, you should give Mike a call, or you should give Wingman Payments a call. You know, I know they can probably fix that for you, or they can at least answer that question. And you'd be surprised how much business you get through stuff like that. You know, so I just think it's the right way to do business. It's not something that's hard for me. You know, I enjoy being involved in the community. So.
And to expand on that too, I feel like you just naturally kind of find where you fit in best, not to fit into other people and how they want you to be, more to fit in the sense of you got to like the community you're a part of. You have to like the group of networking people you're going to go see every week. You know, if you don't get, you know, if you're dreading going to the networking meeting every single day, you're going to you're going to just go through the motions and leave, and you're not going to get anything out of it. So it's really fine tuning and figuring out, all right, where do we mesh well? Like, and now that the great part is Weston, myself and my dad all are similar in a lot of ways, but we're far different in many ways. So who's to say, you know, one county, I may not like anyone, or I may not get along with them, but Weston may really thrive there. So we can really pick and choose how we attack different markets now that we have it as a whole family affair.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great strategy, actually.
And to compound on what Josh said, that I think is important is the intention, right? And I think, Butch, you know what I'm talking about, is, you know, people that are just going to these different events like this. They have their hand out, like, well, I'm here, you know. And I think you've met with people where you sit down with them and they think a one-on-one is trying to sell you their product, you know. And I think that's the last thing that, you know, I'm looking to try to do. I share with you what I do, but that's where it stops. And then I want to know about you. Like, I know, Butch, you're an incredible golfer. You know, I know that a lot of people may or may not know that about you, but I know that you've been a very good golfer over the years, and you wouldn't know that by, you know, just talking about yourself all the time.
Right. Yeah, so that is an interesting. Just hadn't thought about it that way. With the three of you, there are a lot of groups that would be open, and everybody could have fun and enjoy the people that they're dealing with. There's nothing worse than going to a network meeting and you figure out in the first 10 minutes that you don't really need to be there, and all you're doing is trying to figure out how you can leave.
Yeah, that's probably not the best attitude in a networking meeting.
So let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up with this, and I really appreciate you guys being on today. And I think it makes the point of how we bridge generations in sales and outreach. Just what we talked about just then. You know, if you've got young businessmen, I don't know that this is a group, but if there's a group that's, you know, young business leaders, we probably need to send Josh or Weston, not Mike. And vice versa. If it's older guys who get grumpy occasionally, then we can send Mike and let him do it. So as we wrap up, I'd like each of you, we'll start with Josh, go to Weston, and then Mike. What's one thing you would share with the audience if there was something to? I see Will's with us today. Thanks, Will. Appreciate you being here. What's one thing that you would share with a CEO who knows that he needs to make a change and how he is being visible? What suggestion would you make?
Yeah, I would totally say. I mean, the big thing is there is so much business out there, and if there's a change that needs to be made to be visible, it's just kind of stepping out of your comfort zone, doing something that you don't want to do, like the networking, like we discussed, or maybe the solution to that business is cold calling, or maybe you're just targeting the wrong market in general. Maybe you're calling construction companies when you really should be calling tech companies. But it's really being able to flow like water. And I guess what I would tell them is just step out of your comfort zone and be willing to try something new, because the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work out. Like I've always, change is never fun, but I've always been one to jump headfirst into it. I have a now 1-year-old daughter, and I've gone through 2 job transitions all in the last 12 months. I mean, so I feel pretty confident that I can stand and tell people, jump into something you're not sure about and see what happens.
Weston, what do you got?
So I think one thing that, CEOs can do is try to get feedback from others at positions beneath them. And I'll show an example. When I worked at the movie theater, every year we would get a survey. All the employees would get an anonymous survey, and they'd ask us a bunch of different questions. And one question they asked, and again, this is around like the time of COVID, where they're closed, they're opening, they're closed, they're opening because of people can't really go outside. But one of the questions they asked was, what things can we be doing that we may not be thinking of doing in terms of like revenue and stuff? And I put on it, my background is I'm a gamer, I'm a nerd. So I would always go to GameStop. And what I liked about going to GameStop, other than buying games, is they always have collector's editions. They always have cool figures that you could buy. So when I filled it out, I was like, put swag, put stuff for people to buy, And now when you go to the theaters, you'll see they have different shirts you could buy, little plushies, little toys you can get as well while you're at the theater. And I think some of the reason they started doing things like that is because asking people that work in the theaters some of the ideas that they wouldn't have. So I think everyone is able to give ideas, and I think listening to ideas that you don't normally listen to would be a good idea.
Yeah, and I believe, going back to the theme of the show, bridging generations, the only thing I know about games is that my grandsons are obsessed with them. So, I would never have that idea, but I would be completely open to it if somebody could tell me how it would help my business.
I just want to expand on what he said. That I think that is so important, because one of the last, when I was at one of the insurance carriers, which the company is somewhat now, fall into pieces. And the big reason is they did not listen to the field. They did not listen to the people selling day in, day out. And over time, those people probably know you should listen to them, because they're the ones actively talking to clients, not the people sitting up in a C-suite box. So,
Will says you should have $25 souvenir popcorn buckets.
Oh, they do.
So, Mike, what do you have to say?
No, I think having a visible CEO, sets the tone for everybody. You don't see a lot of successful companies that are led by, people that are out, for their business and relying on everyone else to do the job, So I think a lot of companies follow the leadership, so I think it's big. We try to, Weston, Josh and I, we sit down each Monday and we plan out our month and weeks about who's going to what events. We try to support a lot of different events and get out there and where it makes sense for each of us to go. Some events we may have multiple people there. Some events it may be just one of us. but the more that we can get involved in the community and touch different points, and it wouldn't be good if it's like, okay, where are you guys going this week? Because I'm too busy to do any of that. That's not the right attitude. And when you go to these events, I think the attitude you bring to the event has to be one that you want to be there, that you're approachable, that you're conversational, that you're listening to other people, that you're listening to ideas. I think those are all very, very important.
Yeah, I believe that if you're the CEO or the sales leader of a company, and you're not visible, you're not influential, and I did not say an influencer, I said influential in your industry, you're really hurting all aspects of the company. You're hurting hiring, you're hurting retention, you're hurting HR, you're really hurting sales. It's just important that the CEO be seen as somebody that is connected, relevant, and influential, and that's what we strive to work with our CEOs on. Any last words?
One thing I want to add to that, we've talked about networking a lot, and what you just mentioned, influential people. If you're new to go to networking events, the cheat code is typically there's that one or two people at the event where there seems to be a line of people to talk to them. Those are probably the people you should go meet first, because they have a presence. People know them. So if you get in and build a good relationship with a genuine relationship with people that know a lot of people, it really catapults you forward versus doing a slow burn.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Josh. One of the things that, to that point, I tell people is you want to be the man or woman that if you're on a podcast, the people in your industry say, I have to listen to that podcast. Or if you're making a speech in town, they want to go hear that speech in town. And the way you do it is with all the different networks that are available. And you're cheating yourself and you're cheating your company if you're not doing it.
Agreed.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you guys being on the show. I wish y'all all the success in the world. Hey, Mike, did they fight when they were little?
No, they didn't. Fortunately, I have one that was a bully and one that was a pacifist. And so the bully just got whatever he wanted, and the pacifist just let the other one get whatever they wanted. So it was great.
I did a lot of running away.
Well, listen, I really appreciate it. And I want to tell the audience this. We talked about a lot of new things. If this isn't about starting over, this is about evolving. Don't stop what you're doing that's working, but add this to your repertoire and be able to expand your social presence, your visibility. Because if you're not, and I said it before, you're cheating your company. So appreciate you guys being on the show. Remember, Wingman Payments, Josh, Winston, and Mike, and many thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you so much,
Butch. Yeah, thanks for having us on, Butch.